Here we go. Very nice. All right, let's get started. How you doing, everyone? Uh, I work in marketing at CallRail, and just like every other SEO professional, I've been really trying to figure out exactly how to get this whole AI thing to work. There are plenty of things that I got wrong, and there's about like one thing that I did get right, and that's what this entire talk is going to be about. Don't ask me about those other failed projects. I've changed the name to protect the innocent. That way we can focus on what actually went well here. Okay, next slide. Oh, do I have a clicker here? There we go. All right. Is this it? Oh, all right. So one thing that we won't be talking about today is just the fact that AI adoption for content has already happened. I won't be asking you whether you are or aren't, but I did want to check really quickly. How many of you have used AI to create content in the last 30 days? Okay, perfect, perfect. And out of those hands, how many of you can explain end to end the system that governs how content gets researched, briefed, drafted, edited, and published? Okay, perfect. So the gap between those hands there we just saw is pretty much what this entire talk is going to be about. So based on I've been experimenting for the last 3 years. On top of that, I've also had plenty of conversations with professionals about how they're using AI and the processes that go along with that. And what I've found during my conversations is around 85% of people of SEO teams in general are using AI for content. However, around 12% are actually using AI with documented systems and procedures in place to actually get the output that they're looking for. And so the gap between adoption and operational maturity is really the competitive advantage here. And we're going to be diving a little bit deeper into what that looks like. Next slide. Oh yeah, a little bit about me, of course. My name is Darrell Tyler. I run organic growth over at CallRail, and I've been doing that for the last 4 years. And of those 4 years, I've spent 3 of those years learning how to use AI, experimenting, running workshops, building agents. Also, I can figure out exactly how AI fits into our day to day. So there's two ways that we look at it, right? We look at AI search as a performance channel, but also internally we want to look at how we can use AI to do better work and do it more efficiently. And so, yeah, find me on LinkedIn after if you want to keep the conversation going. I'm all here for it. All right. Next thing for me here. Okay, so going back to the conversation, one thing that I won't argue is that content generation through AI has real value. However, what I will argue is that if your AI use is identical to your competitor's AI use, you don't actually have a strategy, you just have a subscription. And we're going to talk about how to turn your subscription into an actual advantage for you. So the default use case for most SEO teams is that, when they're using AI to create content, it only means one thing. That just means create content faster. And so I want to kind of flip that on its head because I absolutely hate that that's the dominating perspective. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do more with what you have. Next slide. Okay, so the reason why I hate it so much is because when we focus all on content as far as as far as AI's use, we're missing the bigger picture here. To me, AI's potential in SEO is much bigger than just content generation. It expands all these different facets that we see here. But as I said before, with most teams that I've talked to, they're mostly using AI to generate content. But there's opportunities in market research, market intelligence, SERP analysis, search intent analysis, topic discovery and planning. There's so many things that go into that. However, most teams still operate at the surface, which is content generation. And they continue to produce commoditized work that doesn't bring too much value to the business as a whole when we start to think about revenue. And so the possible work that's actually required requires a really strong foundation for you to be successful. And we're going to talk about that foundation in just a moment. Okay, so why are some teams stuck at the surface just using AI with content generation and sometimes losing there too? I'm sure you've all seen the LinkedIn post before, people publishing 100 articles a month, and then by the end of month 8, all that traffic just goes back to flat. And so not only are they using AI only in that one particular domain, but they're losing there too. So how is that possible? How is it that we have like one of the most modern technologies of our time, but we're still losing when it comes to using it properly? I can tell you this much: the bottleneck definitely isn't AI. It's the operation that we put around it. And so you can't prompt your way out of an undocumented context. And that's really like one of the biggest points that I want to talk about here. When you're using, when you're prompting, you can make mega prompts. You can give it a role. You can give it an outcome. You can few shot it. You can zero shot it. You can do a lot of different things. However, you can't get around the fact that it lacks context into your actual business and the outcomes that you're looking for. And so you can create the best prompts in the world, but if it doesn't have the context necessary to deliver on the output that you're looking for, then it's pretty much useless. And so the tools outpace the operations, and essentially the stack becomes unstable when you do that. So how do we add context? Let's talk about that. Sorry. Before we go into that, I want to talk about the symptoms of what an underbuilt operation actually looks like for AI. And some of you can maybe probably relate when you first started using it. Maybe you've gotten better, or maybe this is something you can relate to right now. But just a few of them: inconsistent outputs across teams. Whenever you have individual people using AI or prompting on their own, you're going to get an inconsistent output simply because the way someone's prompting for their own thing is going to be a little bit different from the way that you're prompting. And so that's one of the symptoms that we can see there. The other symptom is just duplicated effort. The same thing being done over and over again. Maybe it's research, maybe it's drafting, maybe it's you trying to be more strategic around your planning. But the same thing gets done over and over again without there being memorization involved. I won't read this whole thing, but another thing here is just weak knowledge sharing. Some of the best people that are using AI right now, some of their best prompts are just inside their laptops. There's no global sharing. There's no organizational understanding. And so because of that, you end up with weak knowledge sharing across the board, along with plenty of other symptoms. The most important one here to me is just AI sameness. It's the fact that when you don't have this context, you're creating the same exact content that your competitors are. If I prompted make an article about call tracking, and then you prompted make an article about call tracking, I guarantee we're going to get pretty much the same thing. However, if you prompt make an article about call tracking, and I prompt make an article about call tracking, here's our brand guidelines, here's our content and style guidelines, here's some information about our competitors, I'm likely going to come out with a much better article versus your one sentence prompt that you came out with. And so that's one of the ways that you avoid AI sameness. So yeah, those are the symptoms. When AI is running ahead of your systems, that's pretty much what it looks like. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the tools outpaced operations. When ChatGPT was first launched, the first thing we did wasn't let's build an operational foundation around it. We said let's go out there and use it. And so over time, we've become more capable with how it can be used and what's actually possible. But we haven't sat down to do the dirty work of figuring out exactly how to operate it and keeping everyone on your team involved and its function and the overall feedback that's required to scale the use of it. So the stack is unstable when the foundation can't support the capability. So we got all these things that we are able to do with AI, but we haven't essentially sat down to make sure that we have the proper foundation in place. But the question is, what is the proper foundation, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. So what does it look like when you actually try to scale AI use when you haven't set a proper foundation? You get scaled inconsistency. Every time you publish an article, it's brand misaligned. Whenever you create 100 articles, by the time you get to the 99th one, there's probably a huge quality atrophy, mainly because there's no framework to catch errors, and also at that point it's starting to optimize for volume and just getting the job done instead of taking its time to focus on the outcomes that you're actually looking for. And so yeah, scaling AI use without systems isn't growth, it's just costing you real business opportunities. All right, so what's the alternative here? The alternative actually has a name, and we can just jump right into the next one. That's AI Ops for SEO. The simple way of me explaining it is pretty much just creating systems and processes around your team's actual use of AI. But the book definition here is building and managing the organizational systems that allow you to deploy AI to produce consistent, high quality, brand aligned work at scale. Thought my definition was more fun, but I'll let y'all vote on that one. Okay, so what does this actually look like? It's pretty much 4 layers here. And again, this isn't revolutionary. I pulled this from, RevOps, MLOps, anything with ops involved has a complete understanding of, these types of layers and why they need to function that way. So mature teams usually work bottom up. Newer teams usually work bottom down. You figure out what tool you want to use first, and then you're going to figure out how to govern it and do those other things. So let me kind of break it down from the bottom. That way we have a good mutual understanding of what we're talking about here. So the knowledge layer, to me, is the most important layer of this whole thing. This is where context is built, whether you're building an agent or you're building an automated workflow that includes LLM steps. The knowledge layer is going to be the most important thing. Think brand positioning dots, your customer stories, your content guidelines, so on and so forth. Honestly, I can spend the entire talk talking about the knowledge layer, but we only have so much time. But we will dig a little bit deeper into that in just a moment. Layer two is the workflow layer. Think SOPs, your prompt libraries, your structured data. Sorry, not your structured data, your structured templates, things like that. Just really defining exactly the step-by-step process that you use to accomplish something, and also how you think about the thing while you're doing it. So yeah, that's your workflow layer. Then there's your governance layer. That's your quality assurance. That's your feedback loop systems to improve the AI's prompting or its output over time, along with your human review, your AI policies, what you can do, what you can't do, things of that nature. And lastly, the most unimportant layer to me, the application layer, which is just the tools and platforms themselves. And I'll talk about that as well, but I really just have some tips more than I have guidance for you. And so, talking about the knowledge layer is pretty much your AI's brain. It's your AI's operating system for your business. Um, you can add so many things inside of this knowledge layer. You can have brand and product ontologies, content and style voice guidelines. You can have taxonomies and structured organizational data in general, product pricing and positioning documentation. You can have competitive intelligence databases that frequently crawl your competitors' websites to see if there's any new information. If you're doing any kind of secret shopping, you can include this kind of information inside there as well. That way, when you're creating content about, let's say, one of your competitors or an alternative to one of your competitors, you have all this context involved in the creation of that, which is much better than you just telling it to write an article about your competitor. And so when you have all this context built in, you're able to do a lot more. One of the most important parts here that I want to lay out is just your first party data. You got any customer stories, reviews, calls, transcripts, you can use all that information to add to your knowledge layer, and it also gives you an opportunity to better understand your customer. It gives AI an opportunity to better understand your customer, which is really important. Okay, so AI doesn't know your business, it knows what's on the internet, and the knowledge layer is pretty much how you teach your business to AI. I promise you, just figuring out this one layer alone, you will get a much better output from your agents and also the workflows that you use AI in. Okay, so that's the knowledge layer. Second, we move on to the workflow layer. That's your standard operating procedures, workflow distribution, prompt libraries, prompt governance. These are your templates, things like that. The reason why you want this again is because you want a very clear step-by-step process that doesn't depend on one person's memory. On top of that, you also want to have a clear understanding of how you think about these things between each step. And it's incredibly useful for prompt engineering. And so not only are you giving your agents what to do, you're also telling them how to think about each step when they're actually doing it. Next is your prompt libraries. Everyone should have a prompt library. If you're not using GitHub or something like that, you need to be. Prompts should be treated like production code, essentially. It should be versioned, it should be tested, and also owned. Okay, and it should not just live on someone's laptop, because once they leave, the prompt goes with it, and you're stuck trying to put the pieces back together. I know from experience. So yeah, there's that, and then prompt governance: who owns your prompts, who reviews them, et cetera, et cetera. Just technically, it should be in a governance layer, but I put it in a workflow layer because it should be a part of how you work. Then you have your templates, anything that you have to consistently do over and over and over again. You want to have that built into your workflow layer again to give AI the opportunity to streamline what you want it to do, and also give it the exact information and thought processes that allows it to do it successfully. Okay, that's the workflow layer. Third layer is the governance layer. The governance is pretty much how you build trust in AI over time. I don't believe anything should be done 100% autonomously at this point. And if you're just starting with this, I think there needs to be more checkpoints involved at the end of each task or process. That way you can review things and better understand the output itself and how to get a better output in the future. Okay. And as time goes on, month 2, month 3, month 4, you start removing some of these checkpoints because you spent so much time governing exactly what the output looks like. And this is where your domain expertise is going to come in. If you're really good at what you do, you know exactly the difference between what good versus great looks like. And so that type of brain needs to be involved in this process, mainly because you can stop bad things from happening, and course correct to where you need it to go. Secondly, it's just human review and oversight systems. This is self-explanatory. Again, we don't want anything running 100% autonomously from ideation all the way to publish. We want to have strategic checkpoints. That way we can cross-reference what's going well, what's not going well, and you need more, excuse me, when you're in the initial phases, you need to have more checkpoints, as I said before, than what's normal. Then over time, you start to remove these barriers, and allow AI to kind of do its thing. That is what's going to allow you to build trust over time, instead of just outright trusting it blindly at the very beginning or just not trusting it at all. So that's number 2. And then number 3 is just governance. It's your operational standards, what's allowed, what's not allowed, who touches what, things like that. And then continuous feedback systems. This is really between humans. I think this is one of the most crucial parts of the entire governance layer, is that the feedback is what makes this thing work. It's what makes it stronger. It's what allows people to build trust with AI over time. And the feedback shouldn't have to do with just you. If you're working with uh, content experts' feedback should be involved in this process. That way they can tell you what's right, what's wrong, and again, you can course correct along the way. So this is not something that you launch day one and it's automatically working. You invest in this over time, and as time goes on, you should be and you will be getting much better outputs from AI. Okay. Lastly is the application layer. Just use the best tool for the job without being owned by it. This is this is a core belief of mine here. First, I'm going to say tools are the engine, right? Tools are what the tool ChatGPT versus Claude is like. The difference between a V8 and a V12, a V16, whatever. It's really just your engine. The skills, prompts, and the assets that go along with it is the actual value. That's the operation in and of itself. The tool is replaceable. The asset is what compounds. So you can take your time to put these together using Claude skills and things like that, but you want to put them in a place where it can be independent from any LLM platform. So yeah, second thing I said here is assets live independently. Store skills, prompts, and operational documentation in a vendor independent system like GitHub or anything like that. And again, treat them like production code. You want to make sure that you're LLM agnostic as a whole, mainly because 2 years ago, everyone was hyped up on ChatGPT, and then 2 years later, now Claude's the dominating model. 5 years from now, I'm sure it'll be someone else. And so whenever the leader changes, you just swap the engine, but not your operation. And again, this is something that you invest in over time as you go along. And so yeah, that's the application layer. I'm not going to tell you what tool to use, but you should be using the best tool possible. And once you see that it's no longer working, swap models, go to the other one. And there's platforms that allow you to do that as well. If you're curious about what platforms, reach out to me later. I'll be happy to tell you, but I'm not going to do the promo thing. So yeah, that's the application layer. And so what does this new world look like when humans are combined with AI and SEO? This is the new operating model. AI is taking over all the manual stuff that we hit our heads on the wall doing over and over again over the years. Drafting from scratch, manual data pulls, whether it's from competitors or from another resource, like keyword research, things like that. Repetitive research analysis, AI is going to take over that for you. Again, you don't want to 100% automate anything. You want to make sure that there's human review checkpoints involved. That way you can course correct to continue to make things better. You'll always hear me repeat that because it's just so important when I say these things. Because when I say what AI takes over, people assume that I'm talking about you no longer being involved in this process. So yeah, that's not the case. But what are we going to end up doing more of? We're going to be more focused on strategy, prioritization, making sure our content has information gain and a strong editorial direction, building ontologies and knowledge building as a whole for our layer. That way our content gets better over time rather than it being stagnant. We're going to make sure that we have the right governance in place and quality standards is going to be a big thing around that. It's also going to allow us to build better relationships internally, with our partners and also with our customers in general. And so yeah, with our ability to focus more on things like that, we can actually go back to the systems that we've developed and add our ideas to it, while it compounds over time. So what am I trying to say here? We essentially are looking for the best way to do the work that we're looking to do, and also focus our skills on the things that matter most to not our jobs, but also just the output as a whole, which I believe in strongly at being our customer. Um, and so, yeah, two ways to use AI in SEO. You can have a subscription or you can have an operation. So if you have a subscription, you're just an individual user, you're playing solo basketball here. The output quality is going to vary. The knowledge that you have is just in your own head and in your previous chats. And the competitive moat that you have here is really just a tool. And that's not a competitive moat at all. That's just a subscription, as I said before. But if you are looking to operationalize with AI, you're going to have consistent quality by design. You're going to have knowledge not inside of like someone's head or chats, but literally inside structured systems, JSONs, MDs, things like that. And then you're actually going to be using AI as an organizational capability rather than as a productivity tool. And again, all this scales over time. So gains are compounding. They have over time, you have better systems, which again, at the end of the day, gives you the competitive moat of having really strong operational maturity. And so subscriptions make sure that you move faster. AI Ops ensures that you actually deliver. Okay. And so, what are leading teams doing right now? With that being said, based on my conversations and things like that I've had over the last year or two, there's someone in any marketing department that is pretty much named the AI Ops owner, right? It's the person responsible for the knowledge layer, the governance, and also the overall quality standards. Now, this is a group effort as a whole, but there's just that one champion that's doing what they need to do to push things forward to make sure that the entire team is aligned here. Secondly, is that there's investment in structured knowledge before any AI output. And so they're taking the time to build the knowledge layer, build out the workflow layer, and then they're going out there and trying to do great things with it through obviously content generation, but there's so many other means of using AI in this case. Third is that their prompt libraries are treated like production code. They make sure it's versioned. Anytime things get changed, there's one person that owns the changing of that prompt. It's tested, it's reviewed, and they ensure that everyone who needs to do this particular task uses this particular prompt. That way, there's consistent output across the board. Fourth is just that the SEO role is just going to be redefined. Companies are looking for AI skills and SEOs because they want to be more efficient. And I think it starts with this, with you knowing AI ops, knowing how to build knowledge layers, workflow layers, and taking it up from there. And then lastly, ROI is going to be measured a little bit differently. It's going to be more measured by efficiency, time and money saved, conversions, and revenue, not volume like articles published. Number 5 maybe is still pretty much the same as it is now, but now that we're using AI, they're going to expect, how much time did you save? How much money did you actually save? Now that you're not paying a contractor $900 an article, how much money are you actually saving each quarter? Which still matters, but at the end of the day, conversions and revenue is why we all get paid. So yeah, don't count yourself by how many articles you're able to put out. Just count yourself by the efficiency, conversions, and revenue that it all leads to. Okay, so what becomes possible once you have the operational layer in place? Every workflow runs on a shared knowledge foundation. New hires onboard in days because they have a place to go to actually learn how things get done here. Your strategy develops faster, mainly because competitive intelligence and SERP analysis refresh continuously. It's not just you waking up every Monday morning checking SERPs to see exactly what's changed and what's not. No, AI is doing that for you and coming back to you with a nice little summary or maybe even a report that kind of gives you the breakdown on what's happening. And so yeah, content quality is consistent across hundreds of pages. You took the time to build a really robust knowledge layer, and so now every time you tell it to do a particular thing or write this particular piece of content, it has access to your brand and positioning documentation. It has access to your customer stories. It has access to all these different things that pretty much adds more context and makes your content more unique and gives it that leverage to have that information gain that should be performing well with other humans, not just on search itself. Um, and then your time itself just is concentrated where you add disproportionate value. There's a lot of things AI can't do right now, like build relationships and connect with customers. And so you pretty much take the lead on that, and that's for you to gain more data to then impart onto AI to use more of that data into the content and this like this. self-fulfilling prophecy or this cycle that just kind of fulfills itself. So anyway, yeah, your competitive advantage compounds month over month. People can't just get a Claude subscription and say, hey, I'm doing what you're doing because you have that organizational context that's automatically built in, not automatically, but built in over time, which allows AI to automatically do what you need to do a lot better. Okay, so in the next era of SEO, that's pretty much where I'm thinking things are going to be. But where do you begin? Where do you fit into all of this? So if you're looking to kind of operationalize yourself in this case, you're going to do now week 1, week 2, week 3, depends on how much time you got on your hands. All right. If you can spend all week doing this, then this is probably more the case. But I would say this more looks like month 1, month 2, month 3, right? So first thing you're going to do is audit. You're going to figure out exactly, map the current AI usage across your department. Who are your power users? Where are their prompts at? Do they have prompts that just load inside their computer? How are they using that on a regular basis? Where does knowledge live? Or maybe it doesn't live anywhere. You need to start working on that. And identify where your highest leverage gaps are. Okay. When I say highest leverage gaps, like, are you missing a knowledge layer? Do you not have your brand and positioning documentation? Do you not have SOPs laid out yet? Maybe you need to figure that out first. But again, take it step by step, follow the layers, build your knowledge layer first. Once you have that figured out, then you're going to work on your workflows. And then from there, you'll assign who governs what. Okay, so week 2, you're going to build the first version of your knowledge layer. That it can include a voice guide, a competitor repository, a topic map, something. But just start to pull those resources together. That way you can, again, start the process of operationalizing from a perspective of strength rather than a perspective of weakness, essentially. Okay, so pick the highest volume workflow and document its SOP. If you're going to go the content generation route, figure out exactly what that looks like step by step, from research to reviewing to drafting to optimizations to internal linking. You should have a completely understood documentation around how exactly content's created. And if you don't have that right now, now's a great time to start, right? And so even if it's not just for yourself, even if it's not just for AI, but have it for yourself, you should have a very clear understanding of your procedures without having to think about them. And then week 3, you're going to operationalize. You're going to stand up a governed prompt library for that workflow. You're going to define a QA framework and assign an AI ops lead on your team. And you're going to measure the actual outcomes that you get from this work, not just the outputs. And so one workflow operating at full AI ops maturity, ready to template. Okay, and then you rinse and repeat over and over again for the things that you want AI to be able to use and accomplish and things like that. And so for us, that started with content creation, right? Which is working out really well for us. Things rank wonderfully. I won't even go into that. But I can promise you, if you follow this process, you should get very similar results. And so, yeah, build the system and the output will follow, okay? That's pretty much my talk here on AI Ops for SEO. There's so many more ways to blow this up, to expand on each layer and things like that, but they only gave me 30 minutes up here, which I only have 90 seconds of left. So thank you very much. I'm Darrell Tyler. I think here on the next slide, you can find out where our CallRail booth is. What's the next one here? Do we have a next slide here? Is that it? All right, all good. No worries. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn after, but I'm also happy to just keep talking while I'm around.
How do you think about storing the prompts? Like you mentioned, like some guy walks off with his laptop and takes the prompts with him, just pushing it to like a GitHub, and then how do you quality control? Everybody's coming up with their own version of the prompts. It's kind of a governance thing, like, hey, this is a good prompt structure. This is not.
Yep, exactly. So what I would do is categorize your prompts first by like what job do they actually complete, and then analyze them based on whether or not this prompt does one particular area of a thing that I want to get done, or does another prompt like do like the full completed set. If you have a full completed set, then you want to take the prompt that you like and place it inside like GitHub, right? You can create a folder for your prompts and make sure that everyone has access to that folder. If anyone that has to repeat that task on a regular basis or once a month, whatever the case is, you just want to make sure that they have access to that particular task category of prompts. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Yep. Uh huh. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. A skill is pretty much a prompt with with assets attached to it. Resources is it's mostly the same. But yeah, you want to. That's exactly what you want to do. Yeah, so when I say prompt, I am talking about skills, but that includes like your documentation, you know, your MD files, your brand positioning docs if you have them, product pricing, etc. So yeah, thank you for clarifying. Anyone else? All good? All right, I'm at time. Thank you very much.